Hello, and welcome to another episode of Boundless Body Radio. I'm your host, Casey Ruff, and today we're releasing a bonus episode. This is my recent appearance on the SupersetYourLife.com podcast with Colt Milton. This was episode 227, released on February 18th, 2024, and it was called Heart Health, Your Soul Purpose, SOUL, and Motivation Monday Pep Talk with Boundless Body Radio host Casey Ryan Ruff. Colt is awesome. I've been able to be on his show twice. The previous episode that I was hosting on his show was episode 169. Go back and check that one out. He is a great guest and asks really good and unique questions. This was a really fun conversation. You may also remember Colt from our show. We hosted him back on episode 504 called Superset Your Life with Colt Milton. And we hosted him a second time as well. That episode is going to be dropping soon, so be on the lookout for that. Like I said, this conversation was really unique. We got into a few things that I don't talk about very much, including playing ice hockey and doing so on a ketogenic diet. We talked a little bit about something I mentioned in the title of the show called Soul Purpose, and I have to give credit to my client and writer Garrett Gunderson for teaching me about how to live a soul purpose, the thing that really drives you, and how to create value for people. So really enjoyed that, and also talking about heart health. This was a really fun conversation. Like I said, be sure to go over to Apple Podcasts, give SupersetYourLife.com podcast a follow and a subscribe, and make sure you leave them a rating and review. And without further ado, please enjoy this, my recent interview on the SupersetYourLife.com podcast. SOUL, purpose. When you find your soul purpose, it just changes the way you think about things. Like, I understand the mentality of like, it's Monday, I got to go back to work, whatever. Like, I'm doing this 7 days a week, and I bounce right out of bed at 5 a.m. because I found something that I have no intention of retiring from ever. And sharing that with people just brings me so much joy.
Happy Motivation Monday podcast. This is episode 226 of the SupersetYourLife.com podcast. This week we are joined once again with Mr. Casey Ryan Ruff, host of Boundless Body Radio, another motivational podcast that I must say has a lot in common with this show. So naturally, we get along great. This is, of course, Heart Health Month, as we all know. So a healthy heart requires intentional daily decisions pertaining to both the physical and the unseen aspects of the heart. Proverbs 16:21 says, "Anyone with a wise heart is called discerning, and pleasant speech increases learning." Casey and I both spoke at 2023 Carnivore-a-thon. We exchanged podcast interviews shortly after we met. Episode 169 is definitely where you want to start if you haven't heard of Casey before. That was lifestyle practices for endurance, calm focus, and maximum fat burning. Casey's here with us today to discuss how he starts off his Mondays on a high note to improve in his fitness, picking yourself back up after you fall off the wagon, and setting the tone for his listeners in their faith, in their family, and in their fitness. So check out episode 169 if you haven't already. And if you don't know who Casey is, he is a certified personal trainer since 2007, having operated a metabolic testing program for a large gym overseeing 13 programs in the Western U.S. before shifting his professional focus to researching and acquiring certifications in low-carbohydrate lifestyles, equipping himself to help thousands achieve their specific health and fitness goals through movement, lifestyle management, and proper diet. He is the host of 2 podcasts. First one is Boundless Body Radio, LLC, and the second one is How to Make a Podcast. His Instagram is Casey_Ryan_Ruff, just like it sounds. And in his free time, he likes to cycle, paddleboard, and play hockey. So especially on the hockey part, we definitely get along if you can't tell already. Casey, welcome back to the SupersetYourLife.com podcast.
Colt, it's such an honor to be back here. I love chatting with you, and you are absolutely right. The hockey one, the last one you read, is the most important for sure.
Thanks, man. Have you had a chance to get on the ice at all lately?
Man, so yes, I have. I have been playing a little bit more consistently recently. Before the pandemic, after I played a little bit in college, it was basically like a warm body on the ice. I got into men's league like a lot of people do. You play men's league on the weekends, and I'd have 1 or 2 teams going at all times. And then I got into a drop-in kind of game early in the morning, so I could start at like 5 in the morning, and be done by like 7, and it wouldn't be terribly disruptive for my personal training day. And the same dudes had showed up to this like pickup game forever, for years and years and years. And it was quite clicky. It like took me a long time to like kind of get warmed up to by the people, and just kind of had to like put my head down and work and set up other people for passes. And eventually people start talking to you and you become friends and whatever. And
Yeah.
it's funny, that would run year round. And that became almost like more serious and more competitive than even like the men's league games did. Like
Right.
with the bragging rights, and like they played a Thanksgiving game every single year that had a draft back and forth, and it was just super super fun. But recently, I've decided that I didn't want to play men's league because dudes are just so aggressive, thinking they're going to get drafted at age 55 and just swinging their sticks like samurai swords all over the ice. Um, yeah, wasn't great. So I stopped playing that. And then the drop in, we had this problem where since we were doing like an email list to get people excited about coming every single week to this gate, we only had one goalie coming consistently, and everybody on the email thread would know it. And so if only one goalie would show up, a lot of the players wouldn't show up. So all of a sudden, this great skate, we'd have like 25 people and two consistent goalies every week. It just kind of dwindled down to like being a few people showing up. And so the rink couldn't support only making a few bucks on a few people. That basically turned into what we call like a stick and puck, where you're just kind of like practicing around on the ice. It's just not the same speed and it's not as fun. And so they shut down that skate. So currently, yes, I've been skating. It's kind of been a little bit of a hodgepodge of like trying to find another pickup, game to get involved with. But it is nice to be out on the ice. It's just in a different format that I've had to do in the past.
I love it. What rink are you playing at?
So I'm lucky to live in the Salt Lake Valley, where we have access to a ton of rinks. The one that I've been going to most consistently is called County Ice Sheet, and that's in Murray. It's basically the very central part of the Salt Lake Valley.
Okay, nice. I can't remember the name of the one that I played at, but it was there was one that was significantly, how should I say, higher end than all the rest of the rinks. It has two rinks on it. It's like not even more than a quarter of a mile away from where the Olympics were.
Okay, so yeah, you're thinking of Steiner Ice Rink, a really
Oh,
nice
I love
facility.
that rink.
It's
Yeah.
awesome. So it's really interesting around here since we did get the Olympics. Before we got the Olympics, when I was growing up playing as just a young kid, there were really only like two rinks anywhere in the kind of three valleys that are around Salt Lake, and they were just dank, dingy, disgusting kind of places. My mom would do the classic like driving me at 5:30 in the morning as I was car dressing to get ready for these games and these like terrible
Yeah.
facilities. But since we got the Olympics, not only did a lot of more hockey facilities pop up, but a lot of practice rinks started popping up. And since it's Olympic, we have the Olympics, they're all Olympic size. And to this day, they're all Olympic size. So the ice sheet is literally much, much bigger. It's kind of a slower game, and it takes a lot longer to like skate across the ice or down the ice since the sheet of ice is a lot bigger, but it's pretty
Yeah.
unique. You just have to learn like how the puck kind of travels around the board a little bit differently. Whenever I play at the major arena where our minor league team plays, they play on NHL ice. And so that ice is so much smaller. The game is so much faster. Again, the puck kind of goes around the
Right.
boards a little bit differently. As a defenseman, you'll know like your cues of where you are spatially skating backwards. You kind of rely on like the lines and where the dots are and everything. And when it's a different proportion, depending on the rink, it's kind of challenging to skate at both. But yeah, we have a lot of Olympic size ice sheets around here. It just is different.
I love it. Yeah, when you go from a larger rink that you're used to a smaller rink, it kind of throws off your game. The last hockey that I played was a couple weekends ago, and it was an outdoor tournament actually. Have you ever played on an outdoor tournament, bro?
No, I played a lot of pond hockey up in the mountains here in Utah. I've always wanted
Yeah.
to play an outdoor tournament. How was it?
Oh God, it was so much fun, man. I
Ah,
don't. I think that most of us were not sober like most of the weekend,
that sounds about right.
but we got second place though. We were
Yay.
actually we were ahead in the championship for most of the game. We ended up losing it, but it was really just a fun weekend with a bunch of great guys. You got to remind yourself that that you can't go quite as hard as you did when you were in high school and when you were in college, right? There's certain aspects of the game that are just, you got to really enjoy them when you're in your youth. I think some of the best advice that I ever got as a hockey player was our coach coming into our room, coming into our locker room, and just going, why aren't you guys playing more physical? He's like, I would give anything to be able to play physical like you're allowed to do in high school and in college. And he goes, you're not going to be able to do this the rest of your life. Like, you'll be able to play hockey when you're in your 30s and 40s, but it's not the same. He goes, you take out the physical component of the game, and so many things changes. So it was physical, but it wasn't, like it's not full on check, obviously. So.
Yeah, very interesting. So did you have like boards, and were you playing like 5-on-5 even though it was outside?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was actually the boards are, instead of glass, there's a chain link fence. Most outdoor rinks that I've played on are like that. And then I would say it was probably just a little bit smaller than NHL, but
Okay.
it wasn't too small. Do you
Nice.
ever get the funniest thing is being the only keto guy in sports where like keto is not a thing, right? Because like you go to the gym and like people have heard of the keto diet, people have heard of the carnivore diet. Hockey, no, man. Like, people are drinking beer in the locker rooms. That's as much thought as they give into their nutrition. If you do you ever get a hard time or people like, what? Like, no carbs? Really? Like, you're not loading up on pancakes like the rest of us?
That's really funny. Yeah, I haven't done a tournament in a long time. Tournaments are really fun and unique because you're not just playing with your boys, you're staying with your boys, and everybody's going out to eat together, and it's like the whole experience of the
The
entire weekend
lifestyle, yeah.
is so awesome. No, I mean, some of my friends who are there know what I do just from like social media, for friends on social media, and they know I, kind of post about carnivore and keto stuff. And so I'll eventually, every now and again, I'm not eventually, every now and again, I'll get questions about it. I was surprised. I was having a conversation with somebody in the locker room about it. They were just asking me questions about eggs, and somebody next to me was like, "Oh, carnivore diet. Yeah, I've heard of that. I think I might try it." Like, wow, like at least like the word is getting out, and people are recognizing it a little bit more. And I love what you say about getting older and not being able to play quite as physical. That is definitely true. As you get older, they just don't allow you to play like check hockey.
Yeah.
So you can like body up on somebody, especially if they're like younger, but you don't want to go out like hurting people. But I have to say, like, it is quite fun to, this year I turned 40 years old, and I still
Get
got
out.
some.
What? I didn't know.
40,
You're 8 years older than me. You don't look like it. Wow. That's
40,
incredible.
40 years old, man. Yeah, just a few weeks ago. And like, I maybe lost a bit of a step, but not much. I can still wheel with, some of the fastest guys on the ice, and I rarely get burned around the outside skating backwards. And like at age 40, knowing, I just got a DEXA scan, my bone density is super high, like my muscle mass is really decent. My body fat, could be a little bit lower, but I'm pretty happy with where it is. It's nice to
You're looking
it's
good,
nice
man.
to I appreciate that. It's nice to age and feel like I can still do all the things that I love. I look at a lot of the guys in the locker room who are not aging favorably and complaining about injuries, and their back always hurts, and they're getting older and joke about it. And that's fine. It's nice to do something a little bit different. I think the carnivore diet has really allowed that in my life, and I'm just so grateful that I came across the same information that you did about it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. The last thing that I thought about eating the entire weekend was carbs. Still, even as a hockey player, I'm like, okay, I had like a keto brick between games, and then just venison and butter before bed, just like
Nice.
just yeah. I mean, just like any other day. It's like, okay, I do this because I have low inflammation, because I
Yep.
have more mental clarity, and because I have better endurance. So why would I go backwards on all those things when this has been working great so far? So.
Totally. It's a bit more of a challenge. You have to be more mindful of it when you're out on the road and when you're doing other things. But I would not be willing to sacrifice the performance on how I feel the morning after eating a bunch of steak and eggs. Like Gretz used to eat steak before every single game. Like, people
Yeah.
know that this increases your performance. I would not be willing to give that up at all. And I do have to say too, for my 40th birthday, as I was thinking about what I wanted, I decided that I was going to go down to Vegas to watch the Golden Knights play the Pens, and it was absolutely fantastic. And to see Sidney Crosby also, I mean, he's been in the league for 2 decades. To see him move his hands and the things that he can still do at his age is incredible. And you're watching these guys do warm-ups, right? And there's pucks everywhere. And when a goalie's in net, they're shooting on the goalie and they do their drills. But as you know, it's an unwritten rule in hockey that when the goalie's out, you play pipes. You're aiming for the pipes, which, as you can imagine, a hockey pipe for the net is not very wide, and the puck is not very big, and they're shooting from kind of far away. So
Right.
not that easy. And when these pros are ripping these shots, it's like ping, 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 ping.
Yeah.
The goalie with the big stick flipping it up top shelf, ping. Like, it was really cool to watch. But yeah, you got to figure, 20, 30 years ago, the pro sport was so brutal and so physical, and there were fights all the time. And now it's just all about performance. And these young kids coming into the league are so good. They have to focus a lot on diet and nutrition. I wonder, what exactly they're doing, but you can tell they're at least taking care of themselves a lot more than they were like 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Our nutrition in high school for hockey was pizza before the game, pizza after the game, and then after a while I just started realizing, like, man, I better not eat too close to a game. Then after a while I realized, yeah, that's probably part of it, but probably pizza isn't the best pregame nutrition either.
Not great.
No matter what
Not
diet you're
great.
on.
Not great.
Cool, man. So how do you kick your weeks? How do you kick your week off? How do you come into a new week and look at everything that you have to deal with and go, okay, this is how we're starting things off? I hope that makes sense.
Great question. And I think I understand the context that you're asking the question. So I'm going to answer that, but I'm also going to say, like, for me, I've been working 6 days a week doing personal training and nutrition coaching. Recently, I've even, started working on Saturday mornings, which is typically my only day off. And I just have to say that, like, when you feel like you are, when you're chasing what one of my clients, who is an author about finances, calls your soul purpose, SOUL purpose. When you find your soul purpose, it really just changes the way you think about things. Like, I understand the mentality of like, it's Monday, I got to go back to work, whatever. Like, I'm doing this 7 days a week, and I bounce right out of bed at 5 a.m. because I really truly think that I believe that I found what I love to do. I found something that I have no intention of retiring from ever. And sharing that with people just brings me so much joy. So again, I like, my answer would be like, I don't feel like I have to do that much, whether it's, we're recording this on a Friday. As soon as we're done with this recording, my weekend technically starts, but there's such a fine margin between, when my week ends and when my week starts. And all of it is very enjoyable to me. That said, that's not everybody's, experience, and that's not why you asked the question. So yeah, weekends can be tough, and it's nice, we work very hard, and so to have the little time that most of us have to take that time off and to kind of relax is great. How to reset? I think the best way to reset is not to fall too far off the wagon to begin with, and that again can be a challenge for people. But I think you understand, as somebody, for example, who's a sugar addict, like, is it better for you to have...
Hi, my name's Colt Milton. I'm a sugar addict. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Colt. Like, is it easier for you to say, like, on the weekends, I'm just going to dabble? You know what I mean? Like, we all talk about, like, if you're an alcoholic, is it cool to just have like a few beers on the weekend and then you're going to get right back to it on Monday? You're not getting back to it on Monday. You're going to start a bender that you may never ever recover from. So
exactly.
I think it's knowing yourself and knowing what that relaxation is, and also knowing what is a true reward. Like, people talk about, like, well, I still want to have cake on my birthday. Like, when you keep doing this long enough, that no cake is worth feeling like crap on your birthday. Like, why would you want to feel like crap on your birthday or the next day or the next day? You know what I mean? Like, and so finding different ways to reward yourself can be really helpful. But yeah, I guess the root of the question, I would just say that, we all should be striving to find how we can create value for other people and how we can show up in this world, really offer ourselves. I know how religious you are and how big of a part of life that is for you. And I think a lot of the message of the Bible is around that, like letting our lights shine and getting out there and sharing our examples and our message.
Absolutely.
Is I think really critical. So again, a very long, rambly way to answer the question. Hopefully I did adequately.
No, thanks a lot for that, and I love where you went with it too. Because if you're trying to stop smoking cigarettes, then it doesn't mean that every Friday and Saturday you get to smoke cigarettes, and then you're back to zero on Monday. And I think that we need to acknowledge that sugar is very, very addictive for a lot of people, for most people. Of all the clients that I train, and after just talking with Keto Mary, she specializes in sugar addiction and with working with people, helping them overcome eating disorders, people that can't stop chronically over consuming carbohydrates. And one of the biggest things that I learned from her was that you can make treats, you can make special occasions, you can make weekends very, very fun and very, very exciting within your own within your own fitness goals and within what's important to you in terms of what you eat and what you don't eat. And so for Taylor and I, for Valentine's Day, we were actually booked on to your point earlier. That's too funny. Yeah. Wednesday nights are Bible study night for us. And so we did Valentine's dinner the next night, but I'm on the Lion diet. This is day number 3 for me on the Lion diet right now. And so on Valentine's Day, it's like, what can you eat on Valentine's Day on the Lion diet? I don't know. How about a big, juicy, amazing, delicious ribeye? Like, that's a heck of a lot better than chocolate, in my opinion, personally. I think it tastes absolutely incredible. I mean, like, every single bite of that thing was like candy. I ate that ribeye so slow, especially the way that my wife cooks it. She sears it for 20 or 30 seconds on each side. It's covered in salt, especially like the real fatty, marbly parts of it. Like, you want to make sure that, and you want to use your coarse salts for that. The fine salts, yeah, okay, like that's what you use to dry brine it for the first like 24 hours or whatever. But right before you eat it, oh man, that's when you put the finishing salts on it, and then make sure that you sear those fat pieces just a little bit longer. And then butter, can't do butter on the Lion diet. That's okay. As soon as you make the switch from butter to tallow, man, your entire life changes. Tallow tastes literally as good as butter, like overnight. And there's a lot of health benefits. Like for me, I've noticed lower inflammation, a little bit lower body weight, actually a little bit less water retention. I was holding at 208, 209 for like a couple days in a row, and then just like dropped to 204, 205 now is what I'm weighing every day, just because I cut butter out, even though I'm technically eating more calories, right? Which disproves the calories in, calories out bottle again. but it was, and my wife had steak and butter and a glass of wine. I mean, that was our Valentine's Day night, and we watched a couple of episodes of the Chosen together. And I mean, we made the day about each other, not about junk food. You know.
Dude, I love that. Okay, I've got 2 things on that note. My local butcher, it's a chain grocery store, but their meat section's awesome. And they've done this in the past. So I went and asked for it, and the butcher's like, "No, we didn't make any, but come back later. I'll make one special for you." They took a ribeye, cut it in half, not cut it in half, but took 2 ribeyes and paired them together and kind of
Oh
opened it,
yeah, I
played it.
love it.
So perfect heart shape on a heart platter, and that's what we had for our dinner as well. So ribeye steak, yeah, exactly,
Well,
perfect.
I just tried to do that again because we're on video right now, and when you did that, they're totally just like StreamYard threw out a bunch of hearts, and so I was trying to
I've
see if
never
I could
seen
get
that
my
before.
camera.
I was like, what is going on? That's awesome. I love that you mentioned the salt. A lot of people don't know that about salt. Not every salt is created different. There are finishing salts, and they're typically larger crystals. Like kosher salt can count, or Malden salt is one of my favorites. I know you love the kind of Celtic salts,
Yep,
so
yep.
that's brought that in. I'm very curious about what you said about tallow versus butter. In fact, I was just looking in my cupboard. We used to do briskets all the time, and briskets just render tons of tallow, even after you trim
Yeah,
them. And I feel bad throwing it out. So I'd always save it and like purify it and make sure it was good stuff. But
good.
it's just sitting there and I never use it. I don't eat it. I'm thinking about maybe turning it into skincare product of some kind, but I'm
Yeah.
going to have to dig that out and try to eat that with my ribeye tonight.
I'm so glad that you brought up skincare. Yeah, on Carnivore Coach's Corner, that's our nutrition podcast where I'm having a tallow skincare expert actually that does that
Oh, excellent.
on our show. Yeah, I
Who
went
is it?
so. I can't remember her name actually.
Okay, no worries.
She's a really good friend of Taylor, my wife, and so
Cool.
so Taylor set it up. But yeah, she's got a shop on Etsy and everything. But
Cool.
when I especially after Carnivorathon and after really getting to know Richard Anthony Smith, I went so far as to cut out plant skincare products, and my skin's never been better. It's way better, and I've just been using tallow products, and I love it. I love the way it feels, and I don't miss coconut oil or
Yeah.
anything else really.
It's a game changer for sure. I'm lucky. My sister-in-law makes tallow soap, and so I know the feeling. I use it after hockey games, and like it feels
Really?
good everywhere. Like a bar of soap that not only like on your skin, but like in your hair and everything. Like takes the smell of gloves off your hands really well, and then your skin just feels so vibrant afterwards. It's my favorite. So I might try to make it, or I might just keep outsourcing it to her to give to me, send to me.
Right on. Cool. Okay, so it's Heart Health Month. Do you what are some tips or like general practices that that you have for your heart health? I mean, I know that you're keeping cardiovascular fit and your diet's nailed down. Um, what are some tips and just general rules that you have for making sure that your heart's healthy?
Yeah, great question. It's something I've been thinking about a lot. Again, this milestone of age, turning 40 this last month. Just wondering how my diet is affecting things. I'm not one that really loves doing a ton of blood work. I haven't gotten blood work done since maybe 6 months after starting carnivore diet, but that was like 4.5 years ago that I got the blood work done. My carniversary is the 1st of April this year. Will be 5 years. Um,
Happy carniversary.
Thank you very much. I don't think I'll be stopping anytime soon. Um, but I hope this isn't too much of a tangent. But recently, I've signed up for an alternative to healthcare and health insurance. So we are kind of like you. We're unemployed, or I'm sorry, we're not unemployed. We're self-employed. Um, we work for ourselves, and thus, when we lost our corporate jobs, probably similar to you, we lost our health insurance, and so we've been largely without health insurance for, again, coming up on, since the pandemic, so coming up on 4 years, and that's kind of uncomfortable. If something bad were to happen, if I were to get smacked in the face on the ice, or if the bus were to hit me while I'm on my bike or whatever, like that would be a problem to be without health insurance. And so recently I
Yeah.
found an alternative to health insurance. You pay this company to help negotiate whatever bills you accrue in the health industry and bring them down to a cash pay. And most doctors and hospitals are very much willing to take a discount to be able to do that. So they lower your cash pay bill, and then we do crowdfunding for paying everybody in this community's bills. And so, for
Wow.
example, I've been a few months on this and I've not needed any medical care myself, but every month I get a request that says, "Hey, such and such is having a pregnancy. Will you be willing to donate?" It's a maximum of like $130 a month. Would you be willing to donate maybe one month $110 to such and such who has a pregnancy? And so I click yes, and $110 comes out of my account that goes directly to this person to help pay this person's bills, and it's all cash pay. And that's how the community works. Everybody's paying each other's bills. You get to see how generous other people are when you're making a decision on whether you're going to fund everybody else's. But this company has done over 10,000 claims, some very serious claims, like ICUs and
Huh.
cancer procedures and all kinds of different stuff. And 100% of all the claims have been paid up to this point. It's never guaranteed that all of them will be paid, but at least up to this point, the community has stepped up. And I have to say, I feel amazing every time I get that email, and I feel like I'm like directly contributing to help somebody else out with, an illness or an injury or surgery or whatever. So we've been on that, and I've really enjoyed it. I've only done it for a few months, but as part of it, they also every month come up with something that they will offer you, a service that you can do that the community will reimburse. And so for January, everybody's focused on health. They offered a free DEXA for everybody. And so I went to a DEXA place near me, paid $65, got my scan, got my results, submitted it to the company, and I get reimbursed for that. This month, it's Heart Health
Wow.
Month, and the service offered a free calcium artery coronary score, a CAC score. And so I did the same thing. And it was actually just yesterday that I went to this place to get a scan of my heart. And this is interesting because they're actually looking at calcium buildups in different places in your arteries and around your heart to be able to tell, like, are blockages
Wow.
forming. I think they're just looking at hard plaques, not necessarily soft plaques, but at least showing you how things are progressing. They give you ranges of scores, like I want to say 1 to 10, you're good. If you 10 to 100 is kind of like a low risk. If up to 400 is like a moderate risk, and anything above there is pretty high risk. You need to do something about this now. And so, coming up on 5 years of doing a carnivore diet, I feel pretty comfortable and confident, knowing what I know about heart health and about eating a lot of saturated fat and a lot of animal products and red meat. However, I don't fully know. We're all making really educated guesses, but at the end of the day, that's pretty much all we can do, is just assume that we're chasing the correct science and we don't need to worry about things like high cholesterol. I know from that blood test 4.5 years ago that my cholesterol is pretty high, and I decided that's not really much of a concern to me. So I went in, got the scan, and yesterday I was able to get my results, which are actually right here. And I was a little nervous to see, like, maybe there will be something. I don't know. Again, like, I want to post this to be honest and open about it. If it's a problem, I better say something. Maybe I'll convert over to veganism. But again, after that's a joke. I would never do that. But after 5 years of eating, like going out of my way to eat as much saturated fat and cholesterol as possible, I came back with a complete zero score. I've got zero calcium artery buildup.
Way to go, man. Congratulations.
Thanks,
Thanks
man.
for sharing
Totally
that with
failed.
me, bro.
Failed the
Wow.
test. Failed the test. Got a 0. It's like a high school test or something. So that was encouraging. You know what I mean? Like to say what I've been saying and to coach my clients and tell them like we actually got this whole cholesterol thing wrong, and you should be eating saturated fat. You need the cholesterol to actually have something that was done independently, where they handed me this envelope and sent me on my way, and I was able to open it up and see that, I don't have any buildup at age 40 after several years of going out of my way of eating that kind of stuff. That was nice. It was nice to see. I wasn't necessarily expecting like a 0. I figured it would be low, but I didn't know exactly what it would be. So yeah, so a big part of that, like I said, I think is eating the correct foods, which are the foods
Yep.
literally that the American Heart Association has been telling us not to eat. If you did nothing else but read and study the American Heart Association's guidelines and like do the opposite, you'd probably be just fine. Ignore the fruits, the vegetables, the whole grains, the vegetable oils, all of that stuff, and eat all
Particularly
the
the
things.
vegetable oils, but yes, all the above. I
Terrible.
agree.
All of it terrible. And you do the opposite, you're probably going to be in great health. You did ask about cardiovascular health. I enjoy riding my bike. I play hockey for fun. I don't play it for fitness or health or anything like that. um, I have to say I have much less value, as I know you do based on our last conversation, in actually doing what we call cardiovascular exercise.
Yep.
That the term was even called aerobics or cardio exercise. We associate that. It's actually an interesting story that is really like kind of convoluted. And if you actually look at a lot of the science and the studies that were done, you could benefit your heart, I would argue, even more by doing strength training than by doing, again, what we consider cardiovascular exercise. And I think the book Body by Science does a great job getting into the nitty gritty of explaining on why that's true and kind of opening up some of the studies and the history about, again, why we call things aerobics or cardio. So I think when people think about heart health, they think about eating the whole grains and the fruits and vegetables, and also, grabbing their running shoes and going out for a jog every single day. And I don't necessarily think that's the best thing for your heart. I think strength training and eating lots of fats and proteins is a much better way to approach heart health.
I don't think there's one word that you could have said better on that one, bro. What's that name of that book that you mentioned? I'm sorry.
This was a life-changing book for me for personal training. This is called Body by Science.
Body by Science.
Yep. This is by Dr. Doug McGuff and John Little. And the big revelation, you'll be able to relate this to the big revelation in this book that really changed my thinking, in particular around strength training and how strength training should be done in a gym, is the way that I was originally trained as a personal trainer. So as a personal trainer, I started in March of 2007. You are trained to help people train functionally. Functional training is kind of the name of it. So hockey would be a great example. Colt, you come in to see me, you want to do some sessions, awesome. Let's put you in the gym and let's get you doing hockey-looking movements, right? Like you're going to swing a bar that has a band on it, just like a slap shot, whatever, and it's got some resistance. And
did a lot of those back in the day.
tons of those. Maybe we'll get you balancing on a Bosu and doing some squats, and you'll maybe like throw a ball back and forth, so you're working on your balance and coordination. Maybe you do the thing where you're jumping back and forth like you're ice skating. You see that a lot on like dry land practices that kids do. And so you're doing things that look like hockey in the gym, and you think, okay, this is good because this is kind of the same movement. And this book really kind of goes in a different direction and says, like, look, none of that stuff is hockey. Hockey is played on ice. It's played with, 5 of your buds on the ice with a goalie on each team. You go back to the bench and you smack talk all your buddies, and it's played at a certain speed with a puck that weighs a certain amount, with a stick that weighs a certain amount. And nothing you can do really in the gym will do that much to actually improve your hockey game.
No,
what you should do,
not even close.
That's what we were taught, man. That's the whole idea. Basketball players would be jumping off of boxes and throwing medicine balls that were 10 pounds or whatever. Like that looks like basketball, but that's not basketball. That's not the context that basketball is played in.
I was always, sorry to cut you off. I was always really humbled after hockey camp, after doing all this dry land training and everything, and then after all this running, right? That's just like when people are out of ideas and how to get in shape. I don't know, go for a run, And so like we were running because we didn't know any better. And then, man, I got in wicked running shape. It's not the same as hockey shape, man. There's a big difference between going for a run and then busting your butt with ice skates on for 45 seconds, and then you're not able to move after those 45 seconds.
Dude.
one or two trips up and down the ice, man. Our our coach was famous for explaining to us the importance of short shifts. 30, 45 seconds, man. If you're out there longer than a minute, 2 minutes, like, you better be one of the top 2 or 3 players in the team, which I never was.
That's hilarious. Yeah, man.
Sorry
Yeah.
to cut you off.
No, you're good. Anyway, basically, it's the concept of like doing shorter workouts that are incredibly intense, high intensity training. So HIIT, which ironically is very, very difficult to learn anything about, because if you type that into Google, you'll come up with HIIT, which is much more popular, which is high intensity interval training. A lot more people in, your box gyms and CrossFit style, whatever, doing that type of thing that is still quite popular, like Orange Theory and whatever. Yep. And so, yeah, basically it's learning how to use the gym to make yourself very, very strong. The workouts can be 15, 20 minutes. You just jump into a machine, move very, very slowly until you get to this phase of like very, very deep muscular fatigue. Like, you really just can't move the weight very much longer. You can leverage special machines or assistance with a personal trainer to help take you a little bit further, help you with the positive concentric lift so that you can slowly lower that weight down eccentrically until you're getting to like a deep muscle fatigue. That's making you strong. That's making your heart strong. That's training all of your muscle fibers, including fast twitch muscle fibers, which most people think you need to move quickly to train fast twitch muscle fibers, which is not true. You can do that slowly with control in a way that you'll never get hurt.
That's one way to do it, but you're way better off strength training to activate those fast twitch fibers.
Yep, exactly. And then do what you need to do in the gym, leave the gym. And then if you want to get better at hockey, go play hockey, go practice hockey scenarios in the context that hockey would be played at. So yeah, again, Body by Science has been a really huge shift from what I was originally trained in as far as training, but it's really helped me leverage much better results with myself and my clients.
Wow, I love it. I love everything that you said about cholesterol and about heart health and about cardiovascular health and about cardiovascular training too, in particular. I just wrote that book down. That's one I'm going to have to add to my library too. I'm just cracking up too, because I have all the same beliefs that you just explained on cardiovascular training. I think it's completely overrated, even for aesthetics, even for bodybuilding. The most competitive athlete that I put on the stage this year, he didn't do a step of cardio his entire prep. The Lion diet, the Lion diet did absolutely everything for him, and he was by far the most peeled athlete on stage. Wow. He got second place because the other guy had bigger spinal erectors. And yes, it was a split judging decision. And yes, that's a separate conversation. But,
there you go.
But that, definitely needs to be added to my library. What's if you had to pick 3 of the most impactful books that helped you to do what you do today as a trainer, what would those 3 books be? We already nailed one of them. What's 2 other good ones?
So are we talking fitness and nutrition, or primarily fitness?
Let's do one for fitness and one for nutrition.
Okay, that's fair. I would say this book is probably about 10 years old now. I think the information holds up in it. Go Wild is the name of the book. Richard Manning, I believe, is one of the authors. I'm not sure who the other one is. But yeah, it basically kind of introduced the concept of how we evolved and how we, moved and ate and all kinds of different things, and kind of opened my eyes for the first time 10 years ago about like which blood markers, for example, if you were to follow blood markers, which ones are really important, which ones don't tell you anything. Like, is LDL really all that important? How do you raise your HDL cholesterol? How do you keep your triglycerides low? It really talks a lot about that. So it does include things like sleep and stress and diet stuff, although it's not like a carnivore book. But the things that stood out to me movement-wise were really impactful. And one of the concepts that it talks about is like, we have invented computers that can beat us in chess. And we think our brains are just for thinking, right? Like we think things, we remember things, we can strategize and remember rap lyrics from 30 years ago or whatever.
Yeah.
But that machine that can beat us in chess will never be able to reach out, grab a chess piece, and articulate it with the ease and the grace that a human can do, basically without even thinking about it. And that's what the brain is truly for. The argument is it's not for like remembering stuff. It's actually for like coordinating movement patterns. And we do the craziest, most complex things, like even like walking through a door or walking downstairs, let alone like, do you ever sit down after a shift and you're just like, what the hell happened? The things that I was able to do, how was I able to like feel my edges, know where the puck instinctively was going to be, put it on the exact right place of my stick and flip it, 40 feet in the air to my teammate between two teammates. Do you ever just like sit after a shift and be like, how did that happen?
Yeah, it's like you couldn't have pre-planned it that way.
No,
It's
not at all.
spontaneous.
It's spontaneous and it's so complex, and all the information you're taking in to make decisions in split second. And it talks about, like, imagine going to a gym and you jump on a treadmill and you're plodding along and you're watching the worst stuff that's happening in the world on CNN, and it's all breaking news and financial BS that never impacts me, versus me going out on a trail with my dog and you're running on surfaces and you're judging shadows and you're reacting to your balance and proprioception and the wind and all of this stuff you're taking in. It's all this information, and like, it really promotes movement as the way to keep our brains healthy and active and and happy. And that's why we have the brains that
Wow.
we do, and what makes us human. Those examples have just really always stuck with me. So that would be one. Go Wild. I really, really like that book. It was a good one. Like I said, I think it still holds up. The other
Yeah,
one,
sorry. Just wanted to add to that. Thanks for thanks for the recommendation. I'm going to check that one out too. It sounds kind of like a similar premise to The Inner Game of Tennis. Have you heard of that book?
oh, interesting. No, I haven't.
Yeah. So The Inner Game of Tennis is more of a psychology book than it is a book on
I
how to
have
play
heard of
tennis.
this one.
Actually.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I have heard
Yeah.
of this one. I still haven't read it.
Yeah, that one, and then The Inner Game of Music. Me being a musician, I clicked with that one a bit more. But it's the same idea. It's about how to tap into your subconscious mind and that creative power as an athlete or a musician
Interesting.
in that case. Yeah, basically whatever you do. It's just a great success book on how to think about life. Really.
I that's great. I remember hearing about that several years ago. Now that you mention it, I never looked it up, so I'll have to look it up. So I'm glad we're trading, book recommendations. I'm not just giving you some; you're giving me some back. So that's good.
For sure, man.
I love it.
Okay. So
I
what's your
love it.
what's your nutrition book? Probably.
Nutrition book. Yeah, hands down. Still to this day, another book that's 10 years old is The Big Fat Surprise. That book I've read probably eight
Huh.
times. Read it, listened to it. Nina Teicholz is the author. Um, just basically the idea that how we came to think that saturated fat was bad for us. And it just really goes in
Wow.
depth with the
This is
history
what I
of,
need to read.
dude. It is. It's been called. I think The Economist called it a nutritional thriller, and it certainly is. It's funny that a book about science and nutrition is one that very quickly becomes one that you can't put down. And I would argue very strongly that whether you're a nutritionist, a dietitian, or whether you're just out there confused about nutrition, this is a thrilling book. It is so good. Where the money went, how the American Heart Association got paid in 1947 by Procter and Gamble to promote seed oils, and how in 1961 Ansel Keys started the 7 country study and was on Time magazine promoting these countries that were eating less fat and having less heart attack, and how he cherry picked all the data and the nutritional guidelines and all this stuff. Man, it's gripping, it's thrilling. It breaks apart all of the science behind things. It tells the story of like how McDonald's stopped using beef tallow in their fry vats because of public pressure, and they started cooking with trans fats. And now they just cook with
What?
vegetable oils, which is probably worse. It's all of it. How companies like Nabisco had to reformulate Oreos because they were using like saturated fats that came from palm oil or coconut oil. They had to find and discover new fats that held together the same way, which was an absolute mess. It,
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's captivating. I've had the insane honor of hosting Nina 4 times on my show. I met her in person last year. I introduced her again last week. I hosted her. It was my 4th time hosting her. We know each
Oh
other
man,
pretty well.
this is someone I need to get to know. This is the kind of these are the kind of arguments I get in every day.
Brother, I cried in the introduction. This is not the first time. Again, I've talked to her, and it's not the first time I've cried during the introduction. I'm introducing her, and I look up and I see her, and I'm just like, this person shifted my life forever. And it's just like I'm getting emotional in my own stupid podcast. It's amazing, dude. And again, I've read it probably 8 times, and it is as exciting every single time that I read it. I learn something new, and the level of our bamboozlement as far as nutrition is really profound. People that made money on this stuff, man, I hope they enjoyed their money, because it's a high price for your soul, my friend.
Wow. You've read it 8 times. You've read it 8 times. I know that it's good. The most book that I've ever read, like the most times in a row, is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale
So great.
Carnegie.
That
Yeah.
I probably read about the same amount of times. That's a great book.
Really? Yeah. I think that the audiobook was good. The original, of course, is the classic. But I think my favorite is How to Win Friends and Influence People in the Digital Age. And
Oh,
so,
interesting.
yeah, and so all of his colleagues basically took the same principles and left in most of the stories that are still relevant today. But a lot of the stuff that's outdated, and like he's using Theodore Roosevelt as an example. And so for me, it's like I don't know, just kind of hard to relate to in the original one.
Yeah.
So in the new one, he's using examples like Barack Obama, which I'm not a fan of Barack Obama, but whatever. It's like I can see where he's coming from with the people skills and everything, and so he just made it a bit more, I think, relevant to the age that we live in now. He's considering like, okay, if you're if you're in an email situation, how do you respond appropriately versus, and like how is that different than if it's a phone call or if you're in person or whatever.
Wow, interesting. That would be really relevant and important for most people. In fact, let me just check something. Yeah, check this out. So I served a religious mission in Brazil 20 years ago, and I still have How to Win Friends and Influence People in Portuguese. Como fazer amigos e influenciar pessoas. For Dali Carnegie.
Wow.
Yeah, it's tattered, I mean, obviously very old, but one of the very first editions in Portuguese. So yeah, there you go.
That is hilarious, man. I got two Brazilian clients. I'm gonna have to go find that and give it to them for their birthday or something.
Yeah, please do.
Maybe it'll help us communicate better because there's one that speaks fluent English, but the other guy, I love him from the bottom of my heart. And man, every single check-in that we have, like it's great. But the language barrier is real, and so whenever Milena's available, we try to have her jump in and help out.
You tell me the day and time, I will be there to translate. I love talking to my Brazilians. I've been able to maintain my Portuguese, so you just tell me when, and I'll jump in.
Let's go, man. I'll get on the phone with Fabio right after this.
We go. Love it.
Good stuff, man. Well, bro, I could just keep asking you questions, and I seriously have a lot of questions that I want to keep asking you about the rest of this. But man, we're gonna go way over time if we keep doing that. And so, where can people go to find out more about you, brother? What's the hottest platform that you're on right now?
Absolutely. Colt, it's always an honor to chat with you. I'm really looking forward to hosting you on our show soon as well for the second time. I really jive with people who are authentic and have really a strong passion and just are doing good work and want to get the message out, and maybe don't have billions of followers but are doing really, really good work. And I certainly recognize that in you, and I really appreciate that. And it's just a huge honor to be on your show. The easiest place to find us is our website, which is myboundlessbody.com. You can find most of our socials there. I made our website, so I'm proud that I made it, but it's not like the best ever website. It's good enough to find, our services and what we do. We also offer a free 30-minute consultation. So anybody around the world can click on that and schedule a free 30-minute chat with us. I tell people all the time, whether you want to talk about exercise, nutrition, or whether you just want to introduce yourself and say hi, we would love it. We'd love meeting people and talking to people. And so hope people take us up on that. We are on various social media. You can find our podcast by searching Boundless Body Radio. We release episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We've done so for the last 3.5 years, and not going to slow down anytime soon. We've got YouTube. All that stuff you can find on our website. Again, is myboundlessbody.com. So thank you so very much again for listening to this bonus episode of my recent appearance on the SupersetYourLife.com podcast with my good friend Colt Milton. Hopefully him and I can get on the ice sometime soon and play some ice hockey together, maybe eat a steak afterwards. It sounds really fun. So like I said, go over, give his show a listen and a follow. He does a really good job hosting his show. We actually didn't take the entirety of the episode. He does continue on after this. I just wanted to take the relevant conversation that him and I had and put it on this show as a bonus episode so the more people could get to know him and his work and could go check out his show. So go give them a follow and review. Do the same for us if you haven't already. We really appreciate it. And thank you, as always, for listening to Boundless Body Radio.